Welcome to Campaign 2023, and appreciate you being here today. This being the audio version, you're going to have to believe me that seated to my left is the managing editor of the Mansfield Record. That would be Amanda Rogers. And just before we get into this, by the way, it is great to have a partnership and to do these candidate interviews with you, and appreciate you being a part of it.
I appreciate you asking me, Steve. This has been a lot of fun.
For the people out there listening, if you want to subscribe to the About Mansfield podcast, go to aboutmansfield.com. Right there on the homepage, you can enter your email address, and every time a new episode comes out, you get an email stating it is happening. How can people subscribe to the Mansfield Record?
Go on to mansfieldrecord.com and click on the subscribe button, and you will get a weekly email blast with what's going on in town, and it is free, always free.
In the studio today, he is running for City Council, and no stranger to About Mansfield. He's been on a few times, Brent Newsom, and we are going to, Amanda and I, ping-pong the questions back and forth, and I will yield to the managing editor on my left, and Amanda gets to start.
Brent, I think everybody in town knows you, knows your wife, knows your children, knows your parents. How long have you lived in Mansfield?
Oh, gosh, in totality, it's over 30 years of my life has been spent in Mansfield. So it's obviously, where I grew up. We moved here in the early 70s and all the way through most of my high school career. We were gone for a little bit, then moved back this way in, 98. Spent some time even, just being here, even when I wasn't here. When I was in high school, I came back here, ended up going to senior prom locally with some friends. So even though I'd left, I still had a lot of ties. My grandmother was here, and so visited all the time.
I'm sure I'm not the first to ask you this. Why are you running for City Council?
Well, I still definitely have a lot I feel like we can accomplish. I was on council previously,
sure,
and for a number of years, and I was really excited about some progress we started to make in some areas specific to homestead exemptions. We were able to pass the first homestead exemption for the citizens of Mansfield, and that was at, by the time we were done, it was at 10%, which I think is a good start. I still think we have some opportunity to increase that, as well as lower the actual tax rate, the tax rate itself is more impactful to our business community than the homestead exemption, but the homestead exemption's really important to our citizens and our homeowners. So that's a key factor. I think there's also a lot of opportunity that we can do, from our infrastructure side. I think there's definitely some ideas for road maintenance that we haven't looked at that will help take care of our existing infrastructure. We can use some overlays that will allow the businesses that are adjacent to those major thoroughfares, say Broad or Debbie Lane, to incorporate increased tax valuations down the road to help pay for those versus having to go out and issue separate debt.
What do you think is the biggest issue facing Mansfield right now?
Well, I think we all have a pretty good understanding growth is a very impactful part of what's going on in our town today. It's one of those things that growth itself really has a lot of tentacles throughout the city. And obviously the one is people, traffic is one, but you also got to start thinking about your future infrastructure needs and your service needs. And those service needs range from making sure they were adequately employed for our fire, our police, water, sewer, making sure that we have in the budget, in the planning for our future needs for fire stations in the southern sector, western sector of our town, all the way down to water, sewer, lift stations. Everything sort of goes south, so we'll have to think about lift stations in the southern sector of our town to continue to be able to move wastewater, and everybody doesn't Nobody wants that sitting around for sure. So their growth is, it's exciting. It allows for a lot of new investment in the community, especially on the entertainment piece, on the medical corridor. So it's an exciting time for the city of Mansfield, and I'm excited that we are moving in that direction. But it's also making sure that when that growth is occurring, that you are thinking critically about what is going to arise, what we're going to need to plan for, and what our needs are going to be in the future. And think of it, from a big picture perspective, and try not always to get into the weeds of all of some of the details, but from a council's perspective, being a board of directors, tasking your city manager with, okay, this is our objective, this is what we need to get done, go get it done, and have those expectations.
With growth, obviously, comes traffic.
Sure.
And that seems to be one of really only just a few hot buttons here in town. But how do you control traffic as the city grows?
Well, you're obviously going to control it. I mean, you can't prevent it from happening as far as with an influx of people. There's just going to be more people. Now, what are you going to do about it when it comes? One, I think we have there's some ideas and some opportunities to help mitigate those issues, and not even necessarily expanding road widths for the sake of expanding road widths, but looking to address intersection issues, I think, can be a really impactful piece to managing traffic, where you're looking at either extending or expanding staging lanes to where when you're moving traffic to an intersection, because that's where it tends to bottleneck and back up is when, at intersection. So if you're able to stage more cars at an intersection, that'll allow the traffic to flow more smoothly. In conjunction with that, making sure that we have the technology in place with regards to, signal lights and allowing those signals to coordinate with the amount of traffic depending on the time of day as well. So, because that can change. I mean, all signal lights have the ability, you can time them, but you need the technology in place to allow that to adjust based on whatever is occurring at the time.
There has been a lot of talk about mixed-use facilities, apartments. Some people are all for them. Some people are vehemently against them. In his State of the City address, City Manager Joe Smolinski mentioned that mixed use was probably the way of the future because it took less impact on infrastructure. We don't have to build as many roads if we have a mixed use facility as opposed to 100 houses. What is your feeling about that?
Well, I think mixed use facilities are often very attractive based on, depending on what the developer's plans may or may not be. Now, I think there's definitely a place for them. The component to those that most people don't have an affinity for is the multifamily piece. I mean, they love everything else that goes with it. They like the green space. They like the restaurants or the entertainment piece of it. But often, developers of that nature look for a audience that is, confined to that space to help make their project as a whole attractive to those entertainment industry businesses that want to locate there. So based on the project, and I can't say I'm always for it or I'm always against it. I think that I know you have to be able to look at each project independently and let it be supportive on the merits. And that's really the key whenever you're looking at any project that's coming before council is, thinking of it, having a critical mindset that you have a goal for your city in place, and does this meet those goals? And if it does, then that works, in that area. Then if it doesn't, in that particular area, depending on what the development goals are for that zone, then maybe you look at another project. I think Mansfield, is at a point in our life that we have the ability to be extremely selective in what we do here, and looking at each project with that set of those set of lenses, that gives us a very unique opportunity to go out and attract what we want to attract.
Sure. Let's get back to traffic.
Sure. I guess you have traffic problems today.
Well, she's got her questions. I've got mine. So I've asked this of the other candidates that are running for council. Is it time that maybe Mansfield enacts or puts a mass transit, or maybe even a smaller type of transit in place where the example I've given in the past is maybe a collaboration with Midlothian, Mansfield, and Arlington. So you've got maybe a bus system going between the cities. So if I work at UTA and I live in Midlothian, I instead of having to drive, oh my gosh, I can actually read a book and have someone drive for me.
Read the paper or listen to a podcast.
That's right.
I know they're working on their issues. From the city of Mansfield's perspective, I'm not sure, and I don't anticipating us being there to where we're to a need of a true full-on transit system. Now, that being said, we do need some help in being able to get our senior citizens and our elderly around town to, whether it's a doctor's appointment, grocery store, whatever that looks like for them, because I don't believe that what's in place now, whether it's Uber or Lyft or whatever those, I don't think those function enough to where it's just the cost is often prohibited depending on that particular individual's needs, and often the locations where they'll have limited availability of transit. So I think there's some opportunities for us to partner with, whether it's Trinity Rail or whether it's Via. I think there's some opportunities there for the city to incorporate and use that in a way that really benefits, some of our older citizens that have that much of a need for that.
I'm done with traffic.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay. And he doesn't live that far from here. So stipends. Recently, it came out that in the 22-23 budget, city budget, that the city council was given stipends, $1,000 a month. What are your feelings about stipends for council members?
Not necessarily opposed to them. I was not a fan of the way it happened, to be honest with you. I don't feel like it was done in the most, everybody likes the word transparency. I don't think it's done the most transparent way.
Yeah.
It's not a large item in the budget. I mean, if you're, $84,000 on an annual basis, that's not a significant piece of a multi-million-dollar budget. However, something that's much of a change in policy and direction for the city, something of that nature should have been a separate line item on an agenda to make sure that everybody that was aware that it was taking place.
Two candidates, only one can win. One has served on the council in the past, that being you. The other one has not. What makes you the better candidate?
Well, I think this particular election is a unique election. It's a one-year term, ultimately.
Right, it's a special election.
It's a special election. So there's 1 year remaining on the existing term. And in one, for sure, I think my experience sets myself apart. I don't have any doubts that day one I can step in and have a very strong working knowledge of what's going on. I also think my ability to think not only critically, but in a larger scale to where, okay, what's the big picture? I think that's also very important. That I still have new ideas as well as some old ideas that I think there's some things that we can accomplish, and I know that experience and ideas that we've had in the past that have worked. That one started the homestead exemption. Two, the things that we started moving and putting in place saved the city tens of millions of dollars on cost that we are now the city reaping the benefits of. So I think having that knowledge and knowing what questions and how to ask the right questions when projects or whatever it is that's coming before the council, because that's a big piece. I mean, not necessarily there in listening to what's going on and being able to be a team player and being on board with what's going on. You also really need to have the capacity to ask the right type of questions to know where the speed bumps may be. To get back to your traffic issue.
You boys are really, how long did it take y'all to get here today? I have a question about campaign donations.
Sure.
Do you intend to self-fund, or do you intend to take donations? Do you intend to take donations from any PAC?
I've loaned myself money. I still have a balance on the loan dollars from the past. But yes, I self-fund. I've taken donations. I continue to take donations. In the past, I've taken support from PACs, not any money directly from a PAC, but PACs in the past have helped support my campaign. So if that comes my way, I'll evaluate it. I mean, PACs all the way down to the Arlington Board of Realtors. I mean, they're a PAC as well. They've donated my campaigns in the past, and I would appreciate their support and appreciate the dollars because they help to pay for signs. So it's one of those things where, like it or not, sometimes that's the nature of being in politics. The key factor is what does that mean? And when at least for me personally, there's not been a PAC that I've ever taken money from or support from, or even individuals, to that matter of fact, that have expected me to give them favor. And that's the key from a candidate's perspective, just making sure that once somebody has agreed to donate to your campaign in whatever form that is, that they're supporting you.
Sure.
And that's your support, and they should not expect any preferential treatment based on those dollars. And I think, unfortunately, sometimes nowadays, depending on certain goals, some candidates find themselves listening to certain PACs and or groups, and I think that takes away from that individual or the candidate's ability, to make a good informed decision, because one, you're making an informed decision for the entirety of the city.
Let's talk about downtown. Thriving? Is it just getting along? What would you like to see in the way of expansion or renovation, or should we just keep it as it is?
Sure. Downtown. It's funny because I think back to when I was a kid growing up, and back even when Roy's was across the street on the other side near where Dr. Smith's office is. And, he just had two chairs when Roy was cutting hair.
Yeah.
So I've seen, the changes throughout the years when it was, vibrant, where there was dead, completely nothing going on. And even, and today when there's a lot going on, it's even every single time I drive through downtown, the parking lot next to Meehan's and in that area seems to be packed all the time now, which I think is a great thing. I think there is definitely some opportunities to continue to improve our downtown. We still need to figure out some traffic mitigation issues, because one, a number of years ago, when I was on council, we finally got to the point where the city took back control over that section of roadway,
right?
Because at one point it was part of Business 287, and now it's part of the city, which I think was a very important decision. That means we didn't have to ask permission to have a parade, whether it's a pickle parade or Christmas parade or whatever. We didn't have to ask permission; we could just go do it. So decisions like that are important. I think when we started looking at different types of zoning for downtown specifically, I think that's always important as well, because one, you want to keep the nature of your historic areas as far as the features of homes, because been fortunate to travel to some very old towns in my life. And for example, I think of Boston. There's a lot of old buildings there that have restaurants in them that probably aren't the most ADA friendly.
Yeah.
They aren't always the most, oh, my knee hurts friendly either. So
They're not going to meet code.
Yeah. No, they don't meet code. So you want to be able to take that into account when you're looking to develop and or redevelop your hometown or your historical or older parts of your city. So those types of things are important. I think there's definitely some other things that we can do. I'd like to see some more. And I know this is maybe not a terrible thing to say, but it's a little bit ambiguous, but a lot more trees in our downtown area. And I think mm-hmm. that ultimately makes it to where it's an attractive place to be year round. You're providing, shade and cover from the heat during the summer months, and allows you to have the ability to walk, to the businesses that are operating downtown. And I think that having a vibrant downtown scene that has, many, many different, pieces for people to attend, whether it's restaurants or clothing stores or whatever the business is, we just, programming wise, it'll be something that's not just a 9 to 5 type of a business. Businesses that extend the life of your downtown as far as the hours of operation.
20 minutes goes pretty fast. And with the final question, Amanda, and then we'll open it up to a closing statement.
Sure.
You basically have grown up here. What is the best thing about Mansfield?
Mansfield, even though it is continued to grow. When we first moved here, there's maybe 7,000 people in Mansfield, and now there's 80,000. At build out, your projections, depending on density, 125, 135, if you're counting your extraterritorial jurisdiction or your ETJ. Mansfield still feels like a small town community, and you have no idea how important that is, especially from my perspective, because one, I grew up here, my family's here, my daughter's graduated from school here. One of my daughters I'm hoping to come back in somewhere down the road. My youngest daughter is moving back after she graduates from college. She's going to have a house here, and, we're going to be, grandparents. And so we have that generational history of the town that you grew up in is fun. And we need to make sure that we continue to find ways to make that happen, and to where it's feasible for everybody.
Running for Mansfield City Council Place 3, it is a special election, is Brent Newsom. Do you have a final statement? Do you have a website, or how people can get more information about Brent?
Sure. The best way to actually reach me directly for information, I have my Facebook pages, Newsom for Mansfield, but then emailing me directly if you have questions, or if there's something you need to ask me about, which is Newsom, it's NEWSOM, the number 4 at gmail.com. So that's the best way to reach me directly. I'm excited to get back into this. I think there's a lot that I have to continue to offer the city of Mansfield. It's one of those things that, being a servant, whether it's at the council level, in my local Rotary Club or the Veterans Foundation or Chamber of Commerce Board, whatever those areas of service are, I'm excited to continue that. Mansfield is, a great place, and I want to help continue to focus that future development.
Early voting starts April 24th. The election day is Saturday, May 6th, and running again for the Place 3 Did I get everything right?
Yes.
You're looking at me like
yes. No. I'm thinking I'm in such a bind on May 6th because it's actually my daughter's college graduation.
Brent Newsom, safe travels on May 6th, and best of luck.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I appreciate the time.